The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Welcome back to a show we affectionately call BBB, Bite by Bite. He is the CEO of the Heart of Alabama Food Bank. This is a show specific to the food bank world and Feeding America, and of course all the food pantries and all the wonderful churches that do just some fantastic work. I know it's a tough time right now because there have been a lot of cuts from top to bottom in this administration, and one of those is cutting the SNAP benefits and also somewhat of a work requirement that may be involved in this. So very interesting. What exactly does that mean, and how does that change the way you look at things?
So the SNAP requirement, they've made it very clear when they're looking at doing the Farm Bill, which determines for the next 5 years, they're looking at cutting SNAP benefits, which for those of you maybe tuning in for the first time is what we call it's a supplemental nutrition assistance program or food stamps. And so all that comes down to the states, and then each state is allowed to carry that program out, and they can put administrative requirements. In the state of Alabama for years has it's kind of gone back and forth depending on who's in charge, but typically when the Republicans are in charge, and Alabama's a very red state, as you know, they've put work requirements in. And so I was asked, matter of fact, just this very morning, I was doing a survey for Jackson Hospital, a local hospital. And they said, how do you feel about that work requirement? And I said, well, I'm for it and against it. And they were like, okay, can you help us understand that?
And explain real quick, what is a work requirement? What does that mean?
Yeah, so they say if you are getting government benefits to survive, what the fear is that somebody doesn't go in and max out the benefits and then say, okay, we're going to get some SNAP benefits, we're going to get some Medicaid, and basically I'm just going to stay at home and live off the government benefits. So they do work requirements, which if you are not employed, then it makes that you have to show, and this is typical, I don't know what the latest bill is, but typically you have to show and prove that you've applied to a certain amount of places, that you're making an honest effort to find a job, or if you get a job, that you're working at least X amount of hours a week, and continue to, but for you to continue to be qualified to receive benefits. And so again, going back, I was like, well, I am for it and I'm against it. And so that's the best way I have to explain it is this. I understand that in government benefits, oftentimes and there are exceptions, but it's young people have a child, and lots of times, especially in generational poverty, they'll have children. They don't have the skills. They necessarily don't have the work ethic. They don't have the drive. Because they've lived from generation to generation in poverty. So they've seen their grandparents, they've seen their parents just live in that generational poverty. And the people who are requiring this are like, we don't want to just continue to feed into that system. What we want to do is force people out of that. And so that sentiment that there's some accountability or some requirements. In other words, they're trying to give people who receive benefits some skin in the game. And again, I think there's waivers if you are disabled or certain ages, and I mean that's built into a process. But if you, they used to call it able-bodied. If you are able-bodied, in other words, you can go to work, then there was going to be a requirement to do that, or to prove that you're seeking employment. I'm for it. On the flip side of that, here's why I'm against it. Because people who say that work requirement, yeah, we don't want you to be lazy. We don't want you just to get benefits and live in that world. The problem is it shows a lack of understanding and depth of the poverty problem that so many people we serve encounter, which is I grow up in an environment. I may not have seen somebody get up and go to work every day. I may not understand how to problem solve. I may not understand how to make sure I have everything I need to get to work on time and timeliness and all the things that we want in employees. And so to tell somebody, go get a job, the implication is, well, the only reason they can't get a job is because they're lazy. And that's the vast majority of the cases is not the case. I'm not saying that there's not that element. But if you have somebody who wants to, oftentimes, I mean, there's 5 social determinants of health, and one of those is transportation. So you may have somebody that lives in a rural environment who desperately wants to go to work, but nobody has a car in the family.
Mm-hmm.
So how are they going to get to work? I mean, that is a huge barrier. That's one of the problems with giving them access to food.
And how are they going to pay for the gas to get to work?
Exactly. How are they actually going to go out and buy a car? Where's the money going to come from to buy a car to even maintain it? On and on and on. So what I'm in favor of is kind of a combination of that, saying we're going to require you to work. Initially, though, you're going to be required to case manage and overcome some of these problems. Like, we're going to send a case manager and work it out with you and try to give you some help of how to navigate this space. If you're willing, then that caseworker can sign off on that, and you continue to receive your benefits and grow as a person. If you don't, if you choose not to, like if you're not willing to make an effort, if you're not trying to be a part of the solution,
mm-hmm.
in other words, I used to say, if you don't have the want to yourself, then fine, that taxpayers shouldn't support that. So I like both elements. I like empowering people, creating pathways for them to excel, but giving them financial support along the way so that they can meet their immediate needs and elevate themselves out of that. The problem is with the case management requirements, obviously it's more costly, it's more you got to fund, all of those kind of things. But I don't like the idea, and that's not everybody, but I don't like the idea of putting work requirements, but giving the people who need it, legitimately need it, that hand up, that way to create a pathway forward. Because lots of times you just say, go to work, and you have no idea all the barriers that they face. So it's going to be a real challenge. It's going to be a further burden on the food banking system, as we talked about, I think, last week. But again, we're prepared to do whatever we have to do.
Love your attitude, man.
As best we can.
Love your attitude. HAFB, hashtag it, or go to hafb.com.org. It works either way. And please give when you possibly can. And if you listen to the show, you realize that no one's been safe from these cuts. I mean, it's gone from top to bottom. And I love the fact that you're a glass half full guy, and it is what it is, and so you just have to work through it and pray and hope that the Farm Bill comes through and everything turns around. Thank you, my man. I will talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.